Hi, everybody.
Hello, I'm Ryan.
I'm Bethany.
And we are Ryan and Bethany Board Game Reviews.
And today we'll be talking about Vampires, the Masquerade Rivals Expandable Card Game. And this is published by Renegade Game Studios and World of Darkness, designed by Matt Hyra, but henceforth known as Rivals. Because this is the vampire, and these are all the mortals, and this big word is eating all these itty bitty words.
And it's shorter that way.
Shorter, yeah.
All right, you guys, if you haven't had a chance to subscribe yet, we'd love it if you did that now. And plus, you can hit that notification bell so you can see all of our videos as they come out. All right, so in Rivals, basically, you are in charge of a gang of vampires. There's a whole bunch of them roaming these streets of San Francisco.
Super hip vampires.
Oh, yeah, these are like really trendy. Like,
oh, yeah. They're on it.
Perfect hair, perfect everything. And, they're in charge of fashion lines and media consultants. And, they're all these, really cool, trendy, hipster vampires. It's all based off of this Vampire the Masquerade world, which we're not familiar with. Remember, it's an RPG or something. But it doesn't matter because we're talking about the game, the Expandable Card Game. All right, you guys, let me give you a quick overview of how it works. All right, here is our setup for Rivals. Every player is going to have a deck. This is their library. They're also going to have some extra vampires they're able to draw. They're going to have face up. They're going to have a haven, which is where people can come back to. It's going to give them a special ability, but it's also going to protect them a little bit. And then we have an agenda. This is going to be telling you what your objective is to finish the game, as well as some extra scoring conditions that apply only to you. Then we're going to start the game out there with our leader. Our leader has an extra influence on there. Basically, it's the way that you can kind of modify some of the cards in the game. You can spend influence to kind of change the direction of the game a little bit. Now, this rulebook is pretty text-heavy. There's a lot going on. It's a whole system that you're learning, not just an individual game, necessarily. So I'm not going to go over anything in detail, really. I'm just going to kind of give you a quick overview so that way you get a feel for what's going on. All right, so the game, what we're trying to do is you are all rival gangs, these vampire gangs, and what you're trying to do is you are trying to outlast them by one of two ways. First of all, you have this prestige out here. This is kind of your main resource of the game. It's going to be what you do to give life to your vampires. You're also going to spend it to enact a lot of your actions, and you can even spend it as influence as well. Now you have a general, you have your personal supply, then you have a general supply. You're going to be able to, using cards, turn some of this general supply into your personal supply so that you can actually use it. If anyone runs out of the prestige, they're out of the round. Now, also, you want to have at least one vampire out there at all times. If you ever run out of any vampires, you are out of the round as well. If your rival opponent is removed from the game by one of those two methods, you win the game. And in a two-player game, that's easy because it's just the other person across from you. However, in a 3- or 4-player game, we're going to choose who our rivals are using a random method here. So let's say pretend we're the first player. And basically what's going to happen is, let's say we're first player, the person to our left is second, the person across the table for us is going to be third, and the person to our right is going to be fourth. So we've got a 4-player game here. What we're going to do is we're going to shuffle these up, and we're going to give every one of these face down. And whatever number's on that is going to determine who your rival is. So if this is the case, the player 3, the person directly across from us, is going to be our rival. And over there, let's say they're number 2, so they cannot choose number 2 because they are number 2. So simply put that back in there, mix it up again. All right, so we are going to be their rival. And then so on and so forth until everyone has a rival that obviously is not themselves. For the rest of the game, what you're going to be trying to do is you're going to try to take that person, whoever your rival is, and you're going to try to take their health down to 0 by removing all their vampires or removing all their prestige. And then the other way that you can win is by getting enough of the agenda. So agenda is just kind of these crown symbols here on this card right there. And basically what it's going to say is, if you reach the first person to reach 13 agenda, you win the game. And then everybody has agenda cards to give them additional ways to get more agenda points. Whenever you acquire agenda, you're just going to put it on your card to show that you've gotten it. All right, so at the beginning of the game, you draw 4 of the cards from your library, and then you also draw 1 card from your deck of vampires, and this is your starting hand. You get 2 actions per round, and your actions can be playing a card, it can be attacking someone. You can actually use an action to even draw more cards. Whenever you draw cards, you can either draw from your vampire deck or from your libraries. You actually get to choose, which is kind of nice. There's also an action that you can take that's called Claiming the Prince of the City. This is a card that basically is a really important title. Whenever this comes out, everyone's going to try to make it a run for it, try to become the Prince of the City, because if you own it at the beginning of every turn, you're going to get more prestige, and you're going to get some agenda points as well. But you have no secrecy, which means it's a little bit easier to attack you. You don't need any intel, which I'm not really getting into that, but you're a little bit easier to attack in this case, but you get a whole lot of special benefits, but you also have a target on your back. Many actions require you to exhaust your leader. Exhausting just means kind of turning them to the side, showing that they've been spent for that round. At the beginning of your next round, they become readied again, and they can be used for attacking or exhausting or whatever other actions you want to do. The game starts off with 4 factions, and each faction has kind of a pre-made deck that teaches some core concept of the game or has some kind of specialty. So one's really good at attacking, one's really good at attacking people in the middle here, which we'll get to that in a moment. One's really good at acquiring titles, which makes their characters a little bit stronger, and one is really good at doing these conspiracies, which can be these fun political ways of manipulating the table. So what I would suggest is, I would say everyone take turns playing those different decks that are pre-made until you're really familiar with the game. Have everybody try each deck at least once, that way they know how it works. But then there's a whole other deck of cards that basically says, hey, modify your deck. I want you to crack this open, take out some of the cards from one of the decks, add some new ones in. Or you know what? Combine a couple decks. You got these 4 factions, they're individual, but you can do a half and half deck if you want. Or you can even do 3 decks in once, although that might be a little bit scarier. There are cards that say, like for instance, this one has that little flower symbol at the top. There are going to be action cards that have that flower symbol, and you would not be able to play them unless you had a vampire matching that symbol out there. So the more diversity you add to your deck, you also have to make sure that you have enough vampires matching those colors as well. So in addition to fighting each other, there's also what they call the streets. At the beginning of the game, all these different cards are going to come out there. There's going to be citizens out there that you can actually attack and suck their blood. You can get a little bit of agenda points for them. And also there's going to be some events out there as well that can kind of modify the game. And, there's also the Second Inquisition. Those are bad guys that are actually vampire hunters. They're going to cause damage to you. So you want to try to take those out as fast as possible so that way they don't continually add on more and more and more damage to you as the game goes on. It is a lot of fun customizing your own deck. Basically, you can make a deck between 40 and 60 cards in size, and you really want to try to find some kind of synergy, some things that work well together. Like I said, that's a lot of fun. But no matter what, the win conditions remain the same. You're trying to either be the first to get to 13 of these agenda points, or knock out your rival. And you can either do that by removing their prestige, or by making sure they have no vampires that are healthy.
Everybody, I had so much trouble learning this game, and it is not because of my teacher, my dearly beloved husband, who is a wonderful teacher. I just had a hard time picking up this concept. I've never played a deck construction game before, and it was just like, it wasn't the game's fault. I was just having so much trouble. Once I got that, I kind of understood it. But since I had never played a game like this before, it was a huge learning curve for me.
Which I think gives us a nice perspective, too, because I have played some of those deck construction games, some of those CCGs out there like Magic and Pokemon, stuff like that. And so I really enjoy getting into that aspect of the game and building a deck that has a lot of synergy and stuff behind it. So I think it's cool that that you hadn't ever experienced that, and that I had. We were able to kind of talk about that. And it was kind of funny, too. You were asking me like the whole time, like, is this like Magic? Is this like Pokemon? Well, I mean, yes, you're doing things, but no, it's not the same. But this is a little bit similar, but this is not the same at all. And it's because of that deck construction and that building that synergy, finding those things that work together really well was a lot of fun for me, and being able to kind of show that through that.
Yeah, and this game, so they have the 4 factions, and we found them to be incredibly balanced.
They give you like a pre-built deck for each one.
Exactly.
So before you kind of mess with things, you've got a deck for each one.
And it was a great way to learn the system and learn the game. Every time we played it, we were within a turn of the other person winning. Once somebody won, all that next person needed was one more turn, and they would have won. And that happened multiple times with all the different decks. Even when we started experimenting with the decks a little bit, that still happened. And I just thought that it was a good sign that this was really well thought out and really well balanced.
getting into actually constructing the decks was a blast. I just really liked. I already talked about it a little bit, but I like finding those synergies. And then plus, you can actually mix and match the factions too. So you can have a 2-faction team, and go battle each other that way too. So man, there's just a ton to explore here, which I really enjoyed. But also, there is a lot of learning curve. And you mentioned that when you started off talking about it. Is why was it hard for you to learn? It's not because of you or anything like that. I think it's just because this is a more intense, rule-heavy game than maybe a lot of the games behind us. Because it's not just a game; it's like a whole system you're learning, right? So there's a whole series of events and a whole glossary, all new terminology that you're learning, all new gameplay concepts, several different win conditions you have to prepare for, and on top of that you have the deck construction adds a whole other element to it. And it's not just that you are trying to win, there's also that other side thing of prevent someone else from winning.
Yeah.
And so you have to know what each other deck is capable of. Usually you can just kind of go in there knowing what you're doing in a game and then not have to worry about everybody else has the same win conditions you do, or whatever it is. But knowing what other people can do, how to stop them, how to prevent them from getting their objectives, there's a lot to take in. It's a big rule book, and it's like teeny tiny text. It's not like it's just like big pictures and like big fonts. No, it's like it's like 20 pages of
it's not a large print rule book.
Yeah, no, this is like a huge 20-page rule book with like little bitty 10-point font, and you're just like reading. Yeah. A lot of reading.
So the whole Rivals part of this game was implemented beautifully. So everybody's your enemy, obviously, but only one player is your rival, to where when you attack them, it actually benefits you. So that only happens with one other player at the table. So sometimes you might not attack somebody even though they're in the same place because it really doesn't get you a lot. And other times you might go out of your way to attack somebody because they are your rival and they will get you extra goodies by attacking them. And I thought that worked out really well. It was super balanced how they implemented that, how that started. It was like the 4th time I've it's super balanced. But when you're learning a game, you need it to be balanced, especially when it's a new system. I really liked that.
Yeah, and I mean, outside of someone just building like a really crazy bad deck, even when you were customizing the decks, they were all balanced within each other.
Yeah,
and that's all within the core set too, which is what this is. And you can have a friend buy a core set. You can both battle each other's decks or whatever. There are some cards that say like only one copy can be out at a time, unique cards. Yeah. But other than that, you can go nuts with all these decks. And because this is the core set, I'm really looking forward to seeing the next set, whatever that is, and seeing, more vampires, more action cards, more reaction cards, more location perhaps. This all takes place in San Francisco. Maybe they're going to add more cities. Who knows? I'm really looking forward to seeing where else this can go because by itself, this core game has me excited.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. So we still have more to explore with the core sets if we wanted to and mixing stuff up. There's still more to do that, but I felt like we've already explored the San Francisco city deck, and I'm like, I need another city. Like, I need all of our gangs to go fight someplace else just to see what else is going to happen.
New scenery.
Exactly. Like
Same homeless people that we're eating.
Yeah.
Different skyline.
Yes. Yes. And so I just the fact that I already want more, that I'm enjoying it enough to be like, they should do this with it. They should do that with that. I think it's a good sign to my enjoyment level of the game, which was high. Well, everybody, thank you.
Maybe now I can get her to play Magic with me.
That's not happening. Oh. Nope. But we can play Rivals.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Okay. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe so you can see our videos as they come out. You can also find us on Facebook, we're Ryan and Bethany Board Game Reviews. On Twitter, we're Ryan and Bethany 1, and on Instagram, we are Ryan and Bethany.
All right, you guys, thanks so much for watching, and we will see you next time. Bye.